Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Reserved Investments. Thank you for joining me. I want to warn you up front, this is going to be a very controversial video for a lot of you. A lot of you are not going to agree with my opinion on this. So it was revealed through many social media posts put out by both Comic Connect and CGC that a copy of Action Comics 1, graded by CGC in 9.0 condition, just sold for a record-breaking $15 million. Through private sale. Let me repeat that last part again. Through private sale. Now, this is where I take issue with this. Whenever we have an item that sells via private sale versus that of being sold at auction, you automatically have to take a step back and understand the differences between those two scenarios. When something is sold at auction, we can analyze the bidding history of that item in question. We can look at how far ahead the high bidder who won that item was versus that of the second runner-up. We can take all this information, we can analyze the details, we can even see how many people were in the run-in for bidding on that item at auction. Case in point, back in November of 2025, a copy of Superman 1, graded by CGC no less, in 9.0 condition, sold for a record-breaking, at that time, $9.1 million. That was at auction. We have all the details. You can analyze the bid history if you want to. Now, interestingly enough, that copy of Superman 1, we all know if you're in the comic collecting community, that was not Superman's first appearance. Of course, that honor belongs to Action Comics 1. So it would make sense that this copy of Action Comics 1 in CGC 9.0 would sell for much more than $9.1 million. How much more, though, is where we hit the controversy. In my opinion, if a copy of Superman 1 in 9.0 sold for $9.1 million a couple of months back, a copy of Action Comics 1 should only, in my analysis, be valued at roughly $12 million at present time. Well, lo and behold, this was a private sale that took place. Again, it was brokered through Comic Connect that sold for $15 million. Now, normally, the way that most private sales work in the antiques and collectibles trade, and again, this is all speculation on my part. I want to make that very clear. But most of these sales, the way that they work, especially if they're brokered by a top-tier dealer or an auction house in the trade, usually what happens is somebody comes to that particular dealer, that company, that individual, and says, hey, I have money to spend. I'm looking for, in this case, it would be an Action Comics 1. I'm looking for, if possible, the highest graded copy. And usually, the dealer, if he has connections in the trade, he might know somebody that has that book. So he might say to that person, hey, let me reach out to this individual. I think he may have this book. He may be willing to sell it. Let me see what I can do. Typically, he'll then go and reach out to that individual in certain instances, and the individual will be like, well, if I get a pie-in-the-sky price for this item, I'm willing to let it go tomorrow. So maybe, I forget what this original book in 9.0, the Action Comics 1, sold for in years past. I forget the price, but at $15 million, the current holder of that book, if they're going to sell it for $15 million, they're making a tremendous amount of profit on that book. So that's likely what went down when this sale occurred. Now, usually in this instance, the type of person that is willing to pay this type of premium for this item, they have more money than brains in most cases. This is somebody who has an insane amount of money. We're talking about, at minimum, hundreds of millions of dollars at their disposal. If not, they're quite possibly a billionaire. Now, did they make a bad decision here? To be fair, I want to clarify. An Action Comics 1 in 9.0 condition, I believe, you guys can correct me, last time I checked the CGC census, this was the highest graded copy, universal grade, in existence. So $15 million for this book is a lot of money, but over the long term, this person probably made a wise decision by buying this type of book in the current market that we find ourselves in. So I'm not cutting up the buyer here as much as you would think. I just don't like what goes on behind the scenes that we're not privy to when we're talking about private sales. As a matter of fact, case in point, back around May of 2024, I wrote an article for Antiques and Auction News entitled, "Private Sales Matter Very Little." I'm going to link that article in the video description below if you want to read it. That article is about a vintage Alpha Edition Black Lotus Magic the Gathering card, and it sold for $3 million via private sale. And at that particular point in time, that was, and I think still is, the most valuable vintage Magic the Gathering card in existence. What I do in that article is I lay out the foundation why I think private sales matter very little. So for those of you celebrating this milestone achievement in the comic book collecting community, I don't blame you. What I am going to tell you, though, is take it with a grain of salt for now, why it does matter, why this is a valid sale. We really don't have the details to get too excited about it. Now, to be fair, if you're one of the individuals out there that owns a copy of Action Comics 1, you have that book in your possession, this actually did help you in the long run. Because as we can see, as time goes on, books like Action Comics 1, books like Detective Comics 27, even Superman 1, a lot of these very scarce Golden Age keys, they are continuing to trend upwards in value. But you also have to understand that you cannot judge the strength of a collecting category overall just by looking at the top 1 to 5% of the market. And this is something that a lot of people get wrong. And what scares me, whenever they announce a sale like this, usually it's followed by dumb money that enters the trade. There's a lot of Timmies, Kimmies, and Poindexters sitting on the sidelines saying, oh, gee, well, if an Action Comics 1 just sold for $15 million, that means comic books must be on the up and up. So I'm going to invest in this market. And typically, obviously, these type of individuals do not have enough money to play in the high end of the market. So they end up making bad decisions from a financial investment perspective. And then when it ends badly for them, they exit the market in disgust, and they consider the antiques and collectibles trade then to be a scam. Unfortunately, that's why I really, really hate press releases like this coming out about private sales for pie-in-the-sky items that virtually no one owns. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. If you are subscribed to this channel, I will see you in another upcoming video.